This is going to be a sensible class for the spine. I think about it is called sensible spine. That's what we'll call it. So you'll have your bolster across the mat. And what you want to do, and it's going to be horizontal. Okay. And you'll have your belt. So it's right behind you when you're sitting on the bolster. Okay. So begin sitting on the bolster, 2 blankets stacked behind. Slide in a couple blocks under the bent legs. And kind of get a feeling that when you're sitting, you have the knees in this form of outwards. And in that reality, there's so many seated poses that have like my knee is out, both knees are out. That's a pretty common yoga pose, right? You've got these knee out positions. They're not a lot of turning in unless you're in like kids yoga, because that's kind of hard on the knee. So I want you to sit with your feet together, your knees out, the blocks under the thighs, put a sandbag across your feet, and feel what is touching down, especially your seat. Okay, because this is the awareness of the knees pointing out, is that the movement out kind of centers the pelvis. It's nice to do this seated to start, and then we can do it on the back. But I want you to reach back for your belt and kind of feel when the arms move out, it's different than when the knees move out, right? If I was to bend my elbows like this, it's not quite as opening, right, as the arms stretching outwards. So hold on to the belt and be really generous with how much space you get with your belt. Don't work on a method of tightening. I want you to feel like you're stretching out the arms on the belt, but it's a mode of movement where there is going to feel like the rod at the top of the arm. I think of this kind of as a rod. It might feel heat. So I want you to feel that heat at the top of the arm. Okay, so that's about it. Just there's arm rod heat. Okay, so reach the arms back. Again, be generous with how far out your arms are. Don't focus on how close your hands can get at all. And feel how the ribs are centered, how the shoulders are feeling a little heat. And then I want you to relax your grip on the belt, bring your hands to the thighs, tap on the legs. I won't make it too loud, but I want you to make it as loud as you want so you can tap onto the inner leg to get that circulation through that meridian path for some major organs, right? Liver, kidney, spleen. Okay. And then bring the arms forward, interlace at the hands, just like your feet are kind of together, but I don't think you're interlacing your toes. Turn the hands inside out. Inhale, center. Ribs expand. Exhale, lift the arms up. Okay, inhale, center, forward. This is a little bit of a weird breath pattern. So the ribs expand, like you think of belly balloon. Exhale up and feel like you're trying to move everything into kind of the rail of the center of your body, the spine rail. Inhale, center. With the belly balloon. Exhale, arms up. You can breathe in and out through the nose or in through the nose, out through the mouth. Last time. Inhale, center. Okay, feel your neck centering and then coming back up. Now, open out the chest with the arms reaching wide. Bring your hands up to your shoulders, to those rods, and lift the elbows and see if you can kind of smoosh around into your armpit chest a little bit. Okay. And then as you bring the hands back to the legs, slide the sandbag off. This gives us a little bit of setup. Slide the blocks out. Actually, you're going to put one block flat right next to your bolster. If you look center of the legs with the knees a little bit out, that's the block spot. And then scoot forward to sit on the block. I would use your belt maybe a little bit here. So I'm going to put the belt right up to my side. And then as I lower back on the bolster and the block, slide a sandbag to the hips and then head back onto the blankets. That's kind of critical now because your head's been up. And kind of notice the different reality when you're on your back. So we started like the centering lift. It requires a good amount of effort, but if you do it for a short period of time, you don't get to the postural kind of slump, then it's a nice way to just approach breathing awareness and then get onto your back to work on this circulation in your respiratory system. Feel the feet kind of step out, feel the weight into the pelvis. If the block is kind of bothering you, you could put like a towel on top of it or a blanket if it feels like it's just too much pressure on the bones. And then as your arms move open, I like to do this after the seated open arm position because I feel like, gee, this is kind of easy on my arms. So why is it different when I sit up? About the same range, it's not that different. So noticing what you've been used to maybe in your practice on opening the chest and feeling how the movement placement of the breath is in the centerpiece of the body, the abdomen, the ribs. Take a few moments just with a collective movement of breath. Relax the face. Feel that you breathe and you really embody the breath. It's not tight in the face. You're moving down into the ribs, the diaphragm, the abdomen. And it's possibly an influence on the abdominal muscles as well to alternate that in and out breath and pace it. So your inhale is 4 to 5 counts. And you got to follow that so there's movement with it, each of those counts. And then as you exhale, letting go, empty the lungs. Feel the shoulders motioning back. Be sure your head is on just the right amount of blanket. So if 2 is too many, you can slide 1 back. I don't want you to feel like you're overstretching your neck. Okay, so we're going to work on these levels. So we started the sitting, which was brief, and so hopefully it didn't get to a rounding position on your back. And then we're going to be in this position for just a few more moments before we go into inversion. So we're going to keep working the circulation towards that upper back, which is the lungs. And the area where we tend to round a bit. So we're working on our back to try to lengthen it. So if you do decide that the sand doesn't work for you on the hips, you could put it on the ribs. Okay, now slide the sand off. Stay with the props just like they are. Don't slide back yet here. Let's add a couple movement patterns. So grab your belt and just place it across your rib cage first. Okay. Slide the feet in so the knees kind of perk up. Still use that block. I know some days the block feels like it's great, and some days it's a bothersome thing on this one, I find. So if it is bothersome, it's probably a postural habit. Maybe you swing the hips down. Maybe you need some control on the lower abdomen. So lift the right foot, bring the knee in towards the chest, and take a moment. When the knee draws in, can you grasp the belt and lift it up towards the ceiling, just ceiling, not overhead. And then feeling that mid-body concentration. Okay, now when the foot comes back down, the arms go overhead and bring the left leg in and feel that moment when the leg lifts and alternate. Just keep alternating back with the arms when the foot goes down. The knees stay bending both directions, up and down, right? You're not straightening any leg. You're just keeping the arms in maybe a micro bend, but they're physically lifting. And they're pulling the belt, right? They're pulling it apart. So once you start to notice the subtlety, when you bring the arms back, when you move them back, you might feel the stomach muscles react, okay? So inhale when the arms go back, exhale when the leg lifts up. Now try to stay with it. If you need to pause and you get tired, of course, you pause, but try to return to this action. And then if you need to slow down, it's fine. But I want you to use momentum to bring the heat into your back. Okay, bring that warmth into the back. Last time, thankfully. Okay, move the belt back. I want you to actually keep it in easy reach, so wherever that needs to be, so you don't lose it. And then you'll slide one of your blankets back, so maybe the belt should be to the side so you don't bury it. And then reach for the sides of the bolster. Walk the feet in towards the bolster and block. I like to keep my block at the bottom. I don't like to move it on this one. And then when I lift up the hips, I have to feel where my ribs move, not that I'm jamming the circulation into my chest and my throat or my chin. So I like to lift my hips just a tad, scoot the bolster down under the pelvis, and make sure everything stays intact here. And then when you lift up your feet, you're going to feel where the back of the pelvis centers on the bolster. And what I like about this block is if I feel the block, I'm not far enough back. So it kind of gets me, okay, a little bit farther down with the bolster. I want to feel like I'm really close to the edge though. So let's take a ball, place it between the knees. And once you have that, I want you to let the feet relax down. They're hanging up, they're in the air though, they're not on the floor. So they're dangling from the knees. How fortunate they are. Okay, and let the arms release open. It doesn't mean you have to push them out, they just release. And knees going side to side. And there's a release kind of in the chamber of the hips, although we talk mostly about rib chambers, but it is kind of a chamber, isn't it? And it's a little stiffer than the rib cage because of the bones. The bones are a little bit thicker in that area than ribs. So when you lean side to side, try to keep your center of gravity, it's moving, the pelvis. But from the rib cage to my brain, that's not moving. I want to keep that still so that I can strengthen this middle and lower circuitry. So just kind of play with it. I know the further down the path you go in this practice, it actually can start to open up and become, a little bit more subtle, a little intricate. It's fun to do. Stay with it. Okay, so keep the movement going. Now that we have movement side to side, feel when you program moving the knees to the right the next time, and just stay over on that right side with the knees. Feel that left arm is open, so the chest is relaxing into the arm position. I know if you didn't have the arm, you wouldn't have this kind of stretch in your chest. So it's a good thing to be grateful for the arm here. Okay, my knees could be, I could put a block under my legs on the right if this is difficult for your balance or you're kind of shaking in the core. If it doesn't, know that you have some good, tone going on here. It's good to recognize what's good. And then when you come back center, kick the feet up to the ceiling. If you lose the ball or it's about ready to go, reset it. And then get a feel of circling your feet. I know it may not feel like an absolute thrill, but feel the movement of the feet out or out to in. You're not necessarily looking for the crackles with the feet and the sounds, but get a feel of movement thread from the lower bones. And most of the day we're standing on these. So when you're upside down, it's great for the circulation to your heart, to your brain, to your lungs. It's a good thing, but it's also great for the feet and the circulation into them to not get all the burden and the pressure. There's so many bones in the feet. So just let those bones kind of drift up. No big effort with the ball, just that it's there to help the lower back. And then what does it feel like to let the legs start to move to the left with them viscerally up, and then start to take the bending into the knees. And if you do feel some issue in the knees, kind of notice, right? When does that start to happen with the angle? And then the knees go left, they go left, they go left, the chest opens to the right. We could turn our head to the right. We could keep it right in center. And usually the instruction on this is turn head to right. But on this side, I'm a little bit more troubled. So feel if you can bend the knees, and that helps your lower basin of your back center. You want to find that you can actually be in it. And if there's a little bit of that struggle, you could use a block under the legs. It's only temporary, and you can always pose pass. Okay. Now feel if you are squeezing the ball. Notice if that helps you to kind of grip into it. Gives me purpose. Okay. Bring the knees back in center, remove the ball, grab onto the belt, and take the belt under the right foot, and let's go into brain float. So let's take a stillness for a few moments. Connect your belt into a big loop, and let's get a sandbag as well on the left thigh. Okay, so if that block is bothering you, you can always kind of nudge it away. I prefer it, as you know now, but it's up to you, not required. Some people can't stand it. Okay, so get that sand on the front of the left thigh. Remember, this is basic patterns to restore. So, and that thing, it is actually pretty advanced, but in some ways it's simple to follow. So we got a loop, and you want it big enough, and you don't want it too big. So I tend to be kind of picky on this, I guess. I like to have my buckle so it dangles to the side so I can tighten it down if it's not right. So better to have more belt than too little to start. Right, so you place the belt to the back of your head. You don't have the belt under your neck. This is not a hanging pose, right? This is a float. Okay. It's brain float. So this is, I can feel this on the back of your leg. I hope you do too. So if the leg is upside down and you're doing a hamstring kind of jolt, it's a little different for the circulation, right? Back into the center of gravity. It might be a preferred way to stretch your leg. It might not be as intense. So loosen up the belt if you need to. You want to feel that your head relaxes back into it. Yeah, and that's going to be an issue of hamstring evidence, like, oh, I feel so much in the back string of my leg. How do I work it all with how this part is with my belt around my occiput? Okay, it's not the same stretch, is it? So if it's just too much in the hamstring, you can always go without the sand. You could also leave it on the very top of the thigh and bend your left knee. This will make it easier on your hamstring if I bend the left knee. If I don't, it won't be easier. Okay. It'll create a little bit more circulation. And part of the work of the yoga is to boost the circulation around all these areas and improve range of motion, improve circulation of the muscles, the connective tissue, all the fascia, which is connective tissue. You know, it's kind of a bag around everything, right? So you're focusing on that lymphatic drainage. So rest back your brain and feeling if there's any nuances. Maybe you let your head move back a little bit more. Maybe you don't like that and you push into your foot. Remember, the first side is a setup for the second to find balance. So play with it. Maybe let your head move a tiny bit and breathe. Nice work. So shoulders are back. Feel where the right leg is extending. And just notice the spine of the back of the leg, the power strip of the leg. You know, it is a pretty long sensation, like a hamstring sensation. The calf might feel like it is a different type of sensation with stretching. I don't feel like they feel exactly the same when you study hamstring sensation, calf. You know, the upper leg has kind of a very simplistic strip of stretch. The calf is it's complicated, I think, the sensation. So when you change sides, be sure that the first thing you do is move the sand. And I find moving on my belly is just fine, just across. Hands on the back of my head, lift the left foot up into the belt, and be careful that you don't fall off your bolster here, because you might if you roll back. And then the right leg lowers down, and I like to get a feel, maybe like I wag my tail a little bit and kind of play with the dynamics of, yeah, second side could feel like, wait, what? This doesn't feel the same, right? Maybe you have to change your belt. Maybe you need to kind of be a little bit of a scientist on figuring out your second side. Sand goes down the front of the leg. If you don't like sand, don't use it. Just bend your knee and it's great. This is a good way to go too. Okay. Yeah, you should look a little bit silly with the belt on the back of your head, right? On your head, not your neck at all. Okay. So feel how the foot has now been kind of enforced to be flexed. And your left knee can take a little bit of bending. It can also work on extending through the back of the leg. Okay, and finding where your balance is in your hips. Okay, let the arms go and just take a moment if you want to just kind of unplug from any description. That's okay. You can lower your volume and that's fine too. And you know, sometimes we do these shapes where we don't do this in restorative, it's a standing set, but if you were to stand on the one leg and put the other leg like on a chair or a shelf or a window pane, that kind of thing, a really good, strong standing balance. You want to feel this is about the same as far as how you're aiming the emphasis in your hips. So don't let this leg get too far back, the left leg. Don't try to bring it over your head or crank down the belt. You want to find some strengthening in your hips. Like it's a standing pose, right? It's got resistance with the belt. Luckily, we don't have to stand to do it. We can be on our back. And if you don't like how this feels in your neck, feel your head lean back. If you don't like it at all, it's okay. You can hold onto the belt and bring the arms overhead behind you. So my hands would hold the belt, palms together. The belt would be around the webbing between my thumb and index. And I stretch back. Should have shown this first side, but here we go. Sometimes you remember on the second side. Okay. So when we're getting ready to come out, I want you to keep your belt up on the foot. It's going to go to 2 feet. Okay. So slide the sand away. And once we move our leg position, hands hold the belt, slide it off the back of your head. Okay. Now when you stretch the right foot up into the belt, push the feet out, hold on to the belt, and then feeling just simply the center of circulation in the pelvis. Okay, if you like to go out without your hands holding, okay. What I've liked lately to study on this one is when I bend my knees, how it feels across the branch of the lower back, actually into the sacrum area and then into the SI joint area. So I'm just kind of studying where the weight balance is in the pelvis. So you feel very steady in your hips, right? As time goes on, these areas get less steady, your stability might change. So it's nice to just notice where, okay, I feel really sturdy here. Okay. Now, if you don't hold your belt, your feet are out wide, bend your knees, grab onto the belt, slide the feet together, let the right leg stay up, left foot goes down, cross the right leg over to the left, use your left hand to hold the belt, take just a casual crossover, but see if you can hold that for a few more breaths. Your left elbow might be on the floor. For me, it hooks onto the bolster, and it's going to be all about our length, the difference on the length of the leg, the hook of the hand. It all varies with each person. I mean, you can be in a room with, 30 people, and not every pose is looking the same. And it's okay. So I have just one awareness of it. But we do have the body in common, huh? So bend your right knee. Okay, feel when you bend and you straighten. Kind of play with that for a moment. Bend and straighten. Okay, if there's no clicking in the hip, good thing. It's not a clicking hip, but if it has a little click, you want to try to stabilize right into the bone. So bring the right leg back center. Take the left foot up into the belt. Hold onto the belt with the right hand. Cross the left leg to the right. And then just feel that circulation. It might feel better on the second side, maybe less. The improvement is on the circulation in the hip to the foot. Balance the low back. Yeah, your left arm could be open. Yeah, on this side, I just don't put the elbow on the bolster like the other side. So notice those things. Are you doing the same thing with your arm? Is it different? It's good to have some similarities. So you're giving some equal opportunity on each hip. Okay. All right, so feel the feature of the lateral part of the leg. This is big. We're going to do side sage next. So this area is going to be kind of shifting down off the bolster in a moment. So kind of kick into that belt. I don't know how you're going to kick a belt. It's kind of the last thing in the world you're going to do is kick a belt. Push into the belt. Okay, bend the left leg and straighten. So you're going to the right still. Bend and lengthen. Lengthen's a better word than straighten because it could be a little bendy. And lengthen. You now feel these cross fibers in the back area. We want to let them get this circulation. Enjoy it for the moment. Okay, now bend through the left knee. And then when it's over on the right, just slide the belt away. Bring the knees up. You might go a little side to side. Arms could be out, hands could be holding the bolster. I prefer holding my bolster a bit. And then when the knees shift over, you take a few moments here on this side to side, but no knees to chest yet. No pulling in deep. Okay, now we're going to go left. And if the block is there, you might just kind of push it aside. We're going to use it overhead in a moment. Roll into the hip and the ribs, slide back off the bolster. Although guess what, we're going to go back onto it. And let's get our ball next to the right leg. Okay, you're going to need your sand. All your props are in the wrong spot. This is your time to do some prop yoga. Okay, no belt needed. Okay, no belt prize. So blankets are coming along on top of each other. Okay, have a little stack here behind your bolster. If this isn't enough blanket and you already see there's a dent in your blanket, what you might do is fold up the top one for a little bit more support for your neck. It should be comfy. It's going to be personal. So you have to decide when you get there. I like the block higher so it's easier on my shoulder. And then I add the ball now to the inner right knee. And I feel the leg position. So the legs are, the left leg is close to the bolster. You don't want to have your bolster under your shoulder, the shoulder rod. Your arm is in between. This should be basically stretching your ribs. Okay, so if you have a round bolster, use it because it'll lift up that rib circulation. Okay, that's really nice to have. Okay, so I kind of lean into it and then I get my sand. You might have it on its bolster. And you have a little station. So my head's just not supported enough. So I'm going to bring more height. Add your sand to the outer right side and feel where that support is on your hip and also your breathing cycle. So if you get into your side stretch and you gasp, it's like to get 4 count breath is difficult. See if you can find your shape, right? The shape that we're in. Okay, so I'm on the back of my skull a little bit. So what I need to do is lean into my left cheek, both cheeks, right? Lower and upper. You want to lean into them. And then as that right arm reaches over, down to the bolster, or it's dynamic and it's opening the chest, you could stay there. All of those are fine, okay? You need to find what's fine for you though. So when you keep that reach, let the weight of your head relax. That could be the most challenging piece, is the brain relaxing down. Now, once the brain is resting, you can feel the movement of breath. Just feel how the ribs move. Maybe it's kind of small, so fine tune, breathing slow. Feel the expansion. Noticing your center. And then give yourself the final several moments. We'll take several moments here, but to kind of relax into it, noticing how the muscles respond to ease and elongation. It's different than taking a nap because you're searching for ways of improving your circulation, but not stressful. Okay, now we're going to transition into more of a cat-cow. So something kind of in between that's warming. So that right arm is going to slide the sand away. Let's see, yeah, let it go to the right behind you. So be in a good spot. Okay, now you've got some mat space underneath your hands coming up. So roll the circulation towards the bolster, slide the ball away. I'm going to roll away and then come around to toes under, hands and knees. So I like to get a feeling on this one where I've definitely been researching the movements of this shape, this dynamic. So you might move your hips a little side to side to kind of get ready. You might put a blanket under your knees, but spread out the fingers and the toes are under. Unless this is a real hardship on your knees, you might feel better with your toes relaxed back. I have to feel that one out. What's better for me right now? Okay. The top of the feet down is interesting because you might have one foot that the bones push down easier than the other, because there's definitely differences. And then as you round your back, chin moves towards the chest. So you are scooping. And then when you move the spine back to center and arch the spine, alternate flexing, which seems to be cat pose, arching, okay? And noticing the area from the, keep going with it, from the sternum to the throat, the movement there. Now, for some of us, there's kind of a break-off point where, okay, I'm doing the action, I'm kind of sort of doing what I'm supposed to do here, but you want to find that, oh, your breath is part of it. Okay, now notice when you come back to neutral, to crawl position, breathe. It's kind of easy to breathe here, right? Your abdomen relaxes. It's a good time for breath. But when you hook your toes under, for all of us, you're going to lift the knees up. Give it a try. Pedal out the legs, pedal out the feet, the calves, stretch them out. It's one of my favorite ways to stretch my calves. And even if you go slower, I don't think it makes a big difference on this one for the calf. You can pedal through it. Okay. And we're going to keep it in the inverted V position. So take the feet to a wider stance. Maybe not as wide as your mat, but wider. Feel the bolster hopefully supporting your arms. This is a great support. The sinuses get kind of a little bit of recharge. You should sound funny when you're upside down. It's definitely challenging for your respiratory. Inversions are big time. Now you put it upside down. Now get a feeling of the lift of the heels. Okay. Your head centered down like you're about to do a somersault. Just let's not do that. And then lower the heels back. Maybe they touch the floor. Maybe they're far away. That's okay. And then bend through your legs. And then when you come down to the hands, feel how much we tend to push into the hands and the arms there. And take your hands a little wider, turn the fingers out, turn the hands out. I don't know what that's doing with my fingers. Turn the hands out, and then get a feeling of moving your hips side to side. So you're kind of shifting the balance. Okay, hips side to side. Okay, the hands turn out. I don't know if your fingers are, but who knows. And then move back to cat one last time, stretching the wrists. If this is just terrible on your wrists, can't stand it, make a fist, okay? That's fine. It's more focusing on the muscles than the joints if it's a fist. Okay, find neutral. And then before we come to the next side, I want you to bring your hands on the bolster, lift up so you're standing on the knees. You can put a blanket under them, remember. Hands at the back of the pelvis, lift the chest. Okay, focus on lifting the chest, not trying to push your pelvis farther forward, but lift the chest. Breathe. I know the breath can be a little challenged on this one. Might feel a little short. Okay, now hips back, hands down, turn to your right hip. We can do this. We can crawl into our hip. Take side sage. Now you might need to change your props around, okay, your blankies, but it's about the same, right? It's the same. Second side, what I find interesting is the thigh that's touching the bolster close to it. One side I have a little bit more ease to do it, so just check out what's going on. Use the ball specifically to support your knee. Feel how your body weight transitions onto the bolster. And yeah, and if you feel like you want some more support on your hip or you want a blanket over you, you can do all kinds of stuff for comfort. You so can. You're in your home practice, right? If you're like, I want to cover myself up and take a nap for these few minutes she's in this, that's okay. All right, so it's better off to feel where there's comfort internally. And if the spine is on its side, it feels spine side. If I am on the side of my body, I'm leaning into a side stretch. That's what I mean, side stretching. It's interesting how good that is for your lower back. So just kind of figuratively feel when the arm is moving back over, movement of the ribs. Yeah, I still tend to think I've got to get into the shape, the pose, but it's the pathway you're interested in. So if you never make it to the block, it's okay. You're just kind of interested. I mean, when else are you going to be fascinated by yourself, right? You're the only one that's going to do that. So kind of notice yourself, your fascia, your connective layers. Okay, now let the weight of your head lean into the blankets. Yeah, if the ball is bothering you, you could use your right foot to kind of move it around underneath that left inner leg. It might be, sometimes this feels better higher up on the inside of my left leg than on the under the knee itself. I think that connective tissue that binds to our bendy parts, like our elbow, inner arm, the knee, all these places that have the hinge, the ball is kind of interesting. I don't know if you've used it much in your elbow area, but play with it here and there. Okay, let the weight settle. Feel where the circulation fills up the body, expands, and centers. Take a few moments. Yeah, if this hurts your shoulder, don't do it. Right? If your arm is overhead and it's starting, that knob on the top, it's just getting warmer and warmer and feels tightening, no good. If it gets warmer and warmer and it loosens, good. It's going to be one or the other, isn't it? Okay. You thought you knew yourself, huh? Okay, so feel where the reach is in the waist. All right, we're getting back into the waist again. All right, so feel the chest, the armpit chest. Oh, this stuff gets so glued up. It's full of Elmer's glue, right? This armpit chest, the lymph drain, here it goes. Okay, you can hear it, I know. All right, so feel where the arm is moving back down to its closed up position, holding your armpit in, right? Okay, so come around to the right side and let's take a seat. Actually, let's see. Let's take our bolster forwards. Unfold your blankies so that you have two, or whatever you have. Maybe you got blankets, maybe stacks of towels, maybe really fuzzy, fleecy ones, I don't know. But when you sit on the blanket, stack. I want you to have your bolster so it's flat and your left foot is on top. Okay, so take a seat on the blankets, right? Not on a bolster. I suppose if you had a bolster, a standard and a round, you could sit on the standard and use the round here. I think you could do that too. That might be really good. So you decide if your round bolster is really rolly, like really circular, not, you can't balance it on it. So add your sand to the left thigh. Wait a minute here. Let's see how this is going to feel. Okay, I'm going to maybe use my ball under my right knee. I'm just going to kind of feel it out. So these areas like the knee zone, right, the inner, the under, all this circulation, just let that left leg kind of feel its way forward on the bolster, feel it bend. No force on making it like a lotus leg position. No force, zero. Okay, but it's up, right? So when it's up, it's going to kind of bring some rebound into the tissues. Okay, so what I want you to work with is the spine is centering. There might be a little area in the back that's kind of mystery spine. It doesn't know where to go. It's arching, but it's just doing its time. So I want you to actually feel that you can turn your ribs to the left, hold the right knee or the left knee, unless you put your right knee on your left knee, and then twist so that the waist is turning. And I catch myself on this one. I need a block under my hands, I think that would be good for me. But I catch myself holding onto my leg and pulling it. So what I need to do is let my leg just stay and don't let the arm do too much prodding. Let the lower body speak for itself. So when you're turning, I know this may not be the sequence you were hoping for, but keep focusing on the pattern of movement, the spine's rotation. Breathe, we're back to the sitting rib space. Okay, now feel if you have the capacity to feel the breath here in the center, the ribs. And on your exhalation, is there really an ability to twist more? I mean, I'm not so sure. It's talked about so much, but I'm not sure if my mind is telling me to do the twist or if my ribs actually like to do that. So, noticing the movement of breath is enough, but it's actually moving down here, not up in your face. Okay, now bring the left arm forward, cross it over. So the arm actually moves over my right arm. Give myself a hug. Okay, prim and proper. Here I am hugging. Now, when I hook the elbows, I am trying to intertwine the arms and move the elbows up. Okay, when the elbows go up, my shoulders motion in the center of the back. So I kind of shift them back. But it's impossible, I think, to shrug them. I can't really do this very well. So it's a nice way to land in your upper back. So whether you stay with the hug, this I kind of prefer just to stay with the hug, to be honest. Spread the blades. The intertwining, it has this positive meridian flow, right? The heart and lung meridian. So why not give it a try? But if it doesn't work for you, come back to the hug. Okay. Relax your jaw. You can let your chin relax down. Breathing. If it gets kind of a little bit spicy in that upper intertwine of both sides of the shoulders, it could feel a little heat. Feel your elbows try to lift up. Okay. You can always stay with the hug. Okay, come out with the arms right at that heart level, moving open. Okay, now take the sand to the right thigh, left leg out on the ground, lift the bolster, well, don't lift it overhead, tilt the bolster up and push forward. I've got the ball under my right knee, I just like that, it feels comfy. Doesn't mean anything that is purpose for everyone, but push forward so the armpit chest, so you're gonna feel really under the kind of side sheath that would reach down to your ribs. So what I want you to feel is kind of all these different terrains of the body. So now it's not the rod at the top, we're giving it new names. So we're naming it new anatomy names here. Lean forward. Okay, come back on center, bolster down, change sides, left knee bends, right leg on top, sand on the same leg you just had it. You didn't have to move too much. Put the ball under that left leg and just maybe do some shoulder rolls. This feels good to me right now. Strolling. Okay, strolling, shrugging and rolling. Okay, so we've already had the spine in this position last side. We don't need to reset this. Okay, chest up. So when you do turn, you might put your hands on the ribs. Maybe you don't get under your armpits with the thumbs. That's okay. But kind of feel where there's some ribs. You got several. So you can feel some. And then as you're exhaling, make sure your legs are comfy, right? If your knee is not liking this angle, maybe scoot it forward, the shin forward. Yeah, I've got to be a little careful. I can feel this a bit. Push my bolster, get myself a little bit more room. Okay. You can always opt out of the bending leg. You can straighten the left leg out. This is fine. And so this is a good option too. It's a good one. Might be one that you do. Okay. So on the exhale, I'm turning right. I've got my sand on the right thigh. My left hand is to the right knee, and I'm not going to pull it. Okay. Right hand back. Maybe there's a block near you. Yeah. Try to go for that feeling of the shoulder blade merging towards the center of your back. Because I don't think there's probably been, injuries that people go, that doesn't feel right. Okay, then don't. But this is a common area that's pretty rounded during the day. This is not what I want you to do, but the day is more like this. There's a little more of this than there's this, right? So this area in the back of the shoulder is rounding a lot. So try to tone those muscles, give them some tone time. Lift the chest, right? You don't have to pretend to be happy. but feel where the hips are centered. They're trying to be. You're trying to pull around, so you got to be careful. This stays centered. You're just holding on to that right leg. You're not trying to torque the knee. And then as you inhale, center the hips, lift the spine. Exhale, turn. And so feel where there's rotation. Okay, so feel where there's turning. Turning what, right? So I'm inhaling, centering through the spine. Exhaling, empty the lungs. Okay, now bring the right arm across the front. You could do a little deltoid squeeze, bring the left hand to the right forearm when it's not hugging in. You could do that and press towards your left shoulder and just kind of feel that deltoid. What I'm trying to get across here is the hug with the right arm on top, okay? And then you can let the elbows kind of draw together, so it's like elbow closeness, intertwine the arms. So it's reaching the arms around, so it's like very snake-like, right? You're wrapping around the spine, the arm, kind of the spinal position of the arm thread, lifting up. And as you lift up, feel where the shoulders, I can feel difference on one side to the next with this one on my shoulders. This is a good one to play with. It's called Garudasana, right? Garudasana. And my legs aren't that far from Garudasana legs, right? It's not that far across. I mean, we're not going to twist the legs together, but it has a similar meridian flow in the legs on this one. Okay, now if you're rounding, this is just what you got to do. See if you can lift it up for a moment. Lift up the elbows. Okay, breathing. We're almost going to go to the wall in just a few moments, so we're just about there. Okay, now relax that pressure. Bring the right leg out. Take the sand to the left thigh. Tilt up the bolster and lean in. Take a moment here. Just get a feeling of, if there's a roundness in your lumbar area and you feel like it's kind of scooping, just notice. Don't get too upset at yourself. So, there's these little, spaces that we're kind of blinded. We're kind of blinded some of these areas because we spend our day moving with our legs, not crawling around. So, maybe our pets can teach us something, but when you lean forward, feel the waist, feel the shoulders a little bit, feel the legs. Okay, now come back to center. I think you've always been there. Take the bolster over to the side of your mat. Take the sand away. Okay, and then let's turn our body so that our feet are to the wall. So I want you to turn. I don't know where you are exactly in your space. Isn't that good? Okay, you got a little bit of privacy with that for sure. Okay, but have your folded blanket, and I would place it, this needs a little bit more improvement here, but we're going to accept it. Accepted blanket underneath. Make sure it's close enough to the wall that you have good coverage, right? So knee support. All right. Now get a feel here. We're going to turn the other blanket lengthwise. Okay. It's like a bolster idea, but won't be as intrusive. Okay. Walk the hands on forward. Feel the hips reach back. You might kind of squirm a little bit with your hips moving, but feel the arms forward, the chest stretch. And then round the back and reach the hips down to the blanket and stretch the chest up. So that means you have to lift up your head towards the ceiling. Now I got my feet at the wall. Okay, I got something to push and keep that length in the front. Lower down all the way. Okay, so here's one where I want you to bring your elbows to the ground and forearms, right? So you're in what's called Sphinx pose. I don't mind having a block between the hands. It's probably not going to do a whole lot of improving for my position. So it looks like something, but it's not really used. But you might use that. Some people like to push into the block and kind of feel the arm circulation. Some like to frame the block with the thumb and the index fingers, but just keep it simple. So push into the wall, big time. Push into your feet. Use that wall. Even if your feet are a little bit up, that's okay. Not this high up, but if they're a little bit up, it depends on the little base of your wall. And I'm trying to scoot a little bit side to side wobble so my thighs are together, like I've got a uni leg. Okay. All right, so push, noticing if the rear responds, if it does little response. Okay, it's gonna start doing something. Slide the hands back so the elbows are by the sides. And I want you to feel that you're pushing into the feet. That's the biggest position here right now, the balls of the feet, not the heels. And your heels are up. So, you know, this is a good position, the heel up. We're not standing, but it's similar work in your spine, right? But it's a little deeper when you're on your belly for your spine strength. So stretch the arms back besides the legs into locust. Feel the shoulders back, the chest reaching forward, breathe. I know one foot might push more than the other foot. That's just kind of how our balance goes. Do the work, breathe, and then exhale, lower down the chest. Hands are going to make a pillow for your forehead. Relax the knees and the buttocks. Just let the legs relax. Okay, now if your feet are kind of semi-relaxed, but not really truly, see if you can relax the heels out so the ankles get a stretch. This is the kind of thing that feels really good if you're getting body work and someone pushes your ankles out, but it's not quite the same by yourself. But it's important to know kind of how our feet, the toes can turn in and the ankles can just move out. So if you have some ankle flexibility. Belly moves with the breath. Belly asana. Okay, now feel first the feet push the wall. So the heels are pointed up, the toes are down, balls of the feet pushing. Slide the hands back. So I want you to get your blocks. So now it's going to be to the sides. 2 blocks on the sides. May as well do this from your belly. And then it won't be as jolty when you get up. Okay, I'll put mine a little forward so you can see. So elbows by the sides. And when I push into my feet, this is a work in progress. You are a work in progress. So be kind. Okay. I know, try to rewind here. So shoulders back and then push, lift up the chest. All right, breathe. Hips push back. Step the right foot forward, and I want you to slide your blanket out. This is no need. Okay, get rid of the blanket. Well, if you're going to use it in the end, yeah, you might get it closer to where you're going to do your legs up. Hopefully that's not in your way. Okay, take a couple of blocks besides your right foot. Position your foot in center. And I would put them up high, even if you're like primo yogi, right? Have the blocks up so that you can push your foot into the base. So I try to keep my heel up. I don't push it to the base of the wall quite yet, right? To the floor. Okay. So you have this interesting strength in your knee. I really find this to be cool because my back knee is off the ground and I'm almost straightening the leg. It's close to straight. Okay. But the heel is up. So take the back foot, scoot the toes a little forward so that the heel could push into the wall. It's not straight up the wall anymore. And feel if you can move your left arm forward, opposite arm to the leg that's down. You kind of wobble a little bit, left hand down, right arm forward. Feels like you're kind of foot wobble. And then lower the right hand. Stay with that lunge. Stay with the energy. Slide the blocks a little bit back or scoot them back. And then feel if you can reach the left heel towards the base of the wall, which means on the floor if possible. And the right foot toes down, stretching the left calf. You can bend your right knee as much as you want. It will make the calf stretch more, but you might barely be able to do that because it's a calf challenge. Okay. Now you could come up higher. If your feet are in two different tracks, that would be better. You could come up higher, like to put your hands above the knee, not on the knee, but above the knee. And if I do this, I want to keep my knee bending, not trying to push it back. So I'm lengthening into that left calf. It's only temporary, okay? So if you come up and you're starting to shake around, just come back down to the blocks, it's fine. Okay, but lower down, feel how that left calf stretches. Oh, feels good. Okay, now step the left big toe to the inside of that left, the right heel. I can't possibly do that to my left heel. Step the left big toe to the inside of that right heel. Steady the circulation in this good calf, right? The left calf gets all that blood flow from the last pose. Try to move your weight forward on the right foot. Okay, right? Of course, I think that's your only choice unless you want to fall on the ground. Okay, now you're walking a plank, so you're going to bring the left foot forward, step the right heel, so the right big toe to the inside of the left heel. All right, following these directions is either going to make you more intelligent or more zany, huh? Okay, left foot is parallel. If it's turning out, no good, boo. Try to keep both feet parallel. Okay. Yeah, the knees might have this interesting knock knee look here. So you want to try to get your sitting bones up. Okay. Take the blocks back a little bit and step that right foot back. Okay. Heel is up, heel is way up at the wall. Steady your left knee bending towards away from the wall. Knee might be over the ankle. I don't like the knee over the toes stuff. You know, I see it coming back a little bit, but I'm just going to stay with the basic foundation. Now you get more stretch maybe, but I don't think that's the best thing for the angle of the knee. So do what you want, but let that back heel feel when it's a little bit at the wall. Okay, right arm forward, try to balance it. Okay, lower the right hand and then the left arm reaches straight in front, not overhead, just in front of you. Okay, now lower the hand and then start to lower the right heel. You'll probably have to scoot your left foot back. Oh my. I can definitely feel this calf a little different than the other calf. If your dominant leg is your right side, just might be different. It has a little bit more joltiness during the day to get you around, you know. Can't do yoga all day long. Or maybe you can in some ways. Okay, so if it's kind of interesting, this is a bit of a calf impression, but for what I do notice is the foot gets kind of tight, like the footing itself grips up. If you look at your left foot to the right foot, they have kind of different expressions. Okay, so when you lower the back knee down, good. Let the right knee lower down, feel the chest a little forward. Okay, now lift up the back knee for a moment. See if you can work the balance. So you can either keep your hands on the blocks or the hands on that left thigh. Try to lengthen the back leg, push into the heel. Hopefully your wall is pretty steady. Okay, now lower down, left foot, left leg straightens, right heel lowers down. Left leg tries to straighten out for a moment. And then feel when you bend it, the calf circulation. Okay, lower the back knee, slide the left foot back, place your blocks on one side, and then let's go onto our back. And I want you to have one blanket behind you, one bolster at the foot at the wall, and then lie back so that your head is on that very, very, very low blanket. It shouldn't be folded up very much. It's very flat. Just gives you a tiny bit of padding. Okay, let's get a little distance from our hips in the bolster. So feel when you push into your feet and you lift your hips up. Okay, notice I know your knees might have some kind of baggage from the last little sequence we did. They might be still kind of heated up. So when you lift up your hips and then you lower your spine down, of course your hips go too. Okay, stretch your arms, actually elbows bending, arms back with the hips, and then lower the spine down. And noticing the movement of the legs that influences the movement of the spine. Now, earlier we were in cat-cow. We're almost to the end here, so we're getting our way around this. But earlier in cat-cow, the movements were more from the arms than they are the legs, right? Because you're hooked into your knees on that position. You don't have this whole leg movement for your spine. So now I want you to scoot back, let your hips be down to do that, huh? Okay, feel your feet, they can touch the wall. I want you to be close enough when you do this next pose that your feet are gonna be really firmly pushing, okay? So you might have to do a little bit of trial and error here. So you'll take a block on each hand, put the blocks at the second setting next to your hips. Have a sandbag nearby, okay? Now make sure you're close. I know this, I pushed us back a little bit. I didn't push you personally back, but I want you to be sure you can touch the wall on this. So when you lift your hips and you push your blocks together under your pelvis, you're going to be trying to be able to push into the wall. Be a little closer. So you could scoot your hips on the blocks. I want you to feel that there's almost a little more you can push, right? You're at that very interesting dynamic, okay? Scoot the legs in so they're close together. You've got a uni leg. If you had a belt around it, keep them closing in. Everything will be magnificent. Now, if I put the sand on my hips, what does tend to happen is things kind of splay out. Sometimes it's effectively good. Some days it's not as effective for me. So I have to kind of be in the moment and feel the legs close together and then just decide. I could put the sand across the front of the hip bones. We did this earlier, right? We were in the beginning of class. It was similar, it wasn't the same feet at the wall, I know that, but notice if I put it far enough down on my legs, it goes out and slides down. I just don't want you to have this kind of movement in with the thighs and then the back of the pelvis kind of rounds. I want you to feel there's a little bit of creating some dignity in the pose, okay? All right, shoulders are back and in towards the spine, chest open. I know from here on out, it's going to be really easy going. So feel where your feet are touching. I know when you move off the wall, you're going to see your footprints. So you want to make sure you got some good prints here. And noticing if the pressure is even. You might not even possibly get even. So the placing attention at the balls of the feet is like an easy balance for most of us. And then draining down into the heel. I can't help but visualize like baby feet impressions or something. The chest is open. Pushing is part of this one. It's not as if you just don't do anything. So there is some pushing into the wall with the feet. Of course, if you were wrapped up with more, like a belt and you maybe had some more sand, and some people do this with 4 belts. Iyengar style will make you use 4 belts. So you could actually let go on it because it's holding you together. So we have a little bit of reserve of attention on this one. Tension is part of the word, isn't it? Attention. So feel how the ribs are lifting. Feel how the hips need to get some stretch now. Slide the sand away. Bring your knees to bending, and then you might like to bring the knees to bending and lift the feet up. Just a moment. Feet come back to the bolster. Push into your feet, lift the hips. No more blocks. Toss them across the room. Okay. And then let your spine lower down. Okay, once the spine is centered, make sure you know, okay, my ribs to my spine is centered. That's a good centered position. Now what you'll do is you'll kick your bolster to the right. Now it doesn't mean you have to swerve your spine when you kick it. So you want to carefully move it right. Keep the spine centered. I like my blanket higher for this crossover. I fold up one more fold. And then you can feel your right knee reach down and let the knee move to the right as your left leg goes over. And the ball is really good for this one. I think it's a nice anchor. It's like 80% of people like the ball, and there's some that just don't for this pose. So if that's you, don't worry about it. Okay. Now sand, maybe, outer left leg towards the knee. Okay. Feel where that circulation is in demand for the hip. This one you can kind of let go in. You can let the right knee bend as well as the left, and then feel where your head rolls to the left. You feel where the belly moves with the breath. Let's give it about a minute on each side. So a minute is about 12 to 15 breaths. Should feel very curvy in the hips. Kind of the more curvy you move the leg over, and there's a little bit of kind of zing to the movement in the pelvis. Kind of enhances that circulation into the kidneys. Twists are so good for that area in that practice of focusing on kidneys. It's usually hip openers and twists. And my head is kind of between center and turning. It's not quite exactly one's position. And now in between sides, let's take a relaxed figure four pose. So it's kind of a constructive rest figure four. Take the ball out, be on your back with your left foot hooked to the right knee. Right foot is straight down underneath. Well, kind of underneath that knee, isn't it? It's not quite under my knee, but it's close. And then reach for the bolster, put it to the left side of your mat. I'm gonna scoot a little right. Okay. All right, so I got my left hip aware. I'm gonna take off the foot from the knee and then swing the right leg, taking the second side over to the left side. Moving my right leg to the left with the ball. Insert it so the ball is somewhere between sacrum and the gluteal fold. So it's kind of where it sticks. And some people like to roll to the left hip and then actually put the ball in and then kind of roll back. So it's kind of a cool anchor. I've seen some people lay on the ball and say they really like that. So it's very personal, I think. Okay, if it doesn't work, it's fine. Arm is open, right arm is reaching out. Let your head center where it's comfortable, feeling where the neck is just the right amount of stretch. Now feeling where the chest is open. And feel where the breath slides in and out. You're pretty weighted in the body. I know your body is waiting to do something, I suppose, but it's probably the mind more than the body. The body's in restorative for a little bit longer. So coax the movement of the breath. It's only time. And now notice if you can actually make the breath be a little bit more embodied. So feeling movement of the body with the breath. Okay, now slide the ball or the sand first, whichever works for you. Take the figure four, right foot to left knee. Take just a moment before we swing the legs up. Okay, push the sand towards the wall. Okay, maybe today you roll up to go towards the wall. Maybe you unhook through that leg and with the hands at the back and roll up and then get your way towards the wall. So we take the bolster and we come around to grab a blanket probably so you have something. And when you sit to the wall, be certain that your tush is at the wall, not your back. Well, this is not the way to go upside down, not my back. No, it's my seat. Okay, so it's awkward. So you roll awkward style upside down. Yeah, give yourself this pose. This is the only pose that matters of all of them. Okay, getting upside down is what matters. Inversions matter. All right, so I'll get a sweat trick that says that someday, maybe. I think I should. Okay, so take a sandbag, place it to your feet, lift them up. If you want to add some more warmth, you can put your other blankie on your core. It's not going to hurt you, right? It's a light awareness on the skin itself of relaxing. So anything that's on you is going to bring that awareness around, kind of, as you know, your fascia, it's like a bag around everything. Connective tissue is a bag inside your skin sac, right? So notice how the weight of the hips is maybe not all the way centered. So for me, I feel like my tail is a little bit lifted. Sometimes when I do this, sometimes I press my tailbone down. This is a good pose to try to get your tailbone to actually press into the bolster. But it's okay if you don't like that. Arms relax below the heart. And find some moments of, twitching around until you personally feel you can be upside down. Just feeling a sense of breath and awareness, even if the practice felt either an improvement for your body or maybe a dull amount of awareness, any layer of connection to your insides is useful. Relax the eyes, returning the body to a place of balance and peace. Let the lift of the legs and then the reverse flow that's undeniable with the legs in this position, draining. And also it's a relaxation for the heart. It doesn't have to pump down to your feet return it back towards the heart. It's just a great gift, right, to your heart. And this is really primarily a cardiovascular pose. It's a heart healthy pose. It's like one of those top heart healthy. Put your legs up. Reduce that retention in the legs. Okay, softening through the face. Feel the breath in the core of the body. And then start to move your feet a little bit away from the wall. Awake with your eyes to see what's on the feet. And bend your knees. And then you can toss your sand overhead. You can slide it off your feet. You could remain like this to the end if you don't want to roll around to get up. You could let your feet be up at the wall. That's okay. You don't have to come out. The longer you're in this, the better. Okay, so get a feeling of the pelvis turned in this direction. Slide anything you have on your core. You might just put it to the side, and then when you do roll over towards that hip that you're going to, kind of feel how the spine stretches, how the knees move, how the body rolls, and then there's always a little bit of pressure to come up to sit with the bones pressing. So take the hips back to the wall and the center of the sitting bones stand out on the bolster and lift up the spine. Bring your hands to the front of the heart, palms together. And let's merge a focus, the collective in each of our homes, sensing awareness and hope for wellness for each of us. Take a deep breath in and outwards to others, bowing into the space behind your heart.